Okay, in craft exercise number 1, we talked about sketching out your ideas, pen and paper, getting your ideas out so other people can look at them, so you can look at them, see what they might look like in the real world. What we're going to do today is take that same thing one step further, and now we're going to build a CAD model. What I have open here is Tinkercad. This is a free, it's online CAD modeling program. It's very easy to get into. You do have to have an internet connection because it runs in your browser. You don't actually download it. And you do have to have an Autodesk account to log into it. But those are free to create the accounts. You just go to tinkercad.com and then you'll be given something like, actually you'll probably be given a startup screen with maybe some tutorials on it and a location where all your previous designs will be held. So you create a new design. And it gives them these interesting names, like this one is named Smooth Go-Go, and so it just randomly generates a name. You can obviously, you can see, you can change the name to whatever you might want it to be later on. But for the time being, we're just gonna let it be a Smooth Go-Go for now. So what I'm gonna imagine is that I went through the thumbnail process, created a lot of tiny little, drawings, not very much detail at all, but little drawings. I've maybe already drawn a concept, two points perspective sketch of my idea, and now I want to create it in Tinkercad. So for this one, my idea is going to be a toaster for car guys, and so I drew a bunch of little thumbnails, and I had one that looked like a tire, some that looked like cars, some that looked like features on classic cars, like the big fins and fancy tail lights and all that sort of thing. But then I started thinking like, well, what if it's not a car? So I drew some trucks and some vans, all in the form of a toaster. And then started like, well, what else do car guys like? And so I eventually got down to a toolbox and came up with a little concept. And these concepts, thumbnails, you don't spend a lot of time on them. You make, just a tiny little thumbnail just to get an idea out there and move on to the next one really quickly. And maybe you make 10 or 20 of those, depending on how creative you're feeling at the time. And so this was one of the ones that popped out from there, and I kind of liked it. And so now what we want to do is we would want to maybe make a little bit better looking model. So we're going to go to Tinkercad. Tinkercad is not difficult. It takes a different approach from something like SolidWorks or even Fusion 360, where the idea for Tinkercad is you have all these shapes, and you have a whole drop down here of different things that you can build into your model. We're pretty much, I think, we're just going to stick with these, maybe just boxes and hollow boxes, or cutout boxes. I think everything that we do, well, no, we'll also use this rounded roof here in a second. But we're going to stick with these relatively primitive shapes. And the idea with Tinkercad is you take shapes and you drop them on your canvas over here and you add them together. So that's the general idea. So our idea is going to be a toaster, 2 pieces of bread, but it looks like a toolbox. So we're going to start with a box. This makes sense for a toolbox, and you can just drag them over to your canvas here. You can change their colors. We're actually going to make this one multicolor in a minute. It's only one piece right now, so it can't be multicolor, so that we can have some different colored features on it. But for now, we'll just keep it the one. You can change it to whatever color you like. I'm going to go with red. Then over here, now I'm over here down in the bottom right corner, you've got this little grid. This work plane has this grid on it. I'm going to edit that just so that we can work in inches. You've got inches, millimeters, and Lego bricks. So we're going to go with inches. And we'll update our grid for that. And now, when you don't have the piece selected, it just sits there. You can use your right mouse button and kind of orbit around the thing. You You can use your mouse wheel to scroll in. You can click your mouse button, middle mouse button, and pan around. So you can do things like that. You have commands over here too that where you can zoom and zoom out. And you're just looking at it. If you click on it, you'll notice a light blue outline saying it's selected, and then you get all these handles. And they kind of are obvious what they do. Like these curved ones are going to rotate the object. So if I click and drag on that one, I rotate. The solid white square, actually they're white with a black outline, those are going to control corners. So if you click on one, you get these, you can just move it, right? You can just drag it around. But you also get these places where you can input dimensions. So I'm actually going to input dimensions here. I'm going to do 5. I'm over in inches. Remember, I changed my grid to inches, so it's going to know I'm in inches. So that's going to be 5. This is going to be 8. And then to get to the height of it, it's this one on top. So you click the one on top, and you'll be given the input field for setting the height of it. I'm going to make it 6 inches tall. Whoops, missed the 6. There we go. So there's my rough shape of what I'm going to work with. Now, programs like SolidWorks or Fusion, you can go select an edge and add a rounded corner to that, a fillet. You know, Tinkercad really just adds and subtracts volumes. So I'm going to have to subtract off an arc here to round this corner. So I have to be a little creative on how to do that. So that's where I'm going to use this rounded roof. I'm going to drop it in here. I'm going to make it 2. I'm going to make it, I want to cut this whole thing off, so I'm going to make it a little longer. I'm going to make it 10 long. If it ever goes off, you can scroll around or drag it where you want. I'm going to make it 1 inch tall. Now I've got this shape. Now I actually want that to be cut out of here. So I'm going to select it and I'm going to make it into a hole. And then I'm going to put, this is the part that gets a little tricky. I'm going to put another block out here. I'm going to make it 2, just to have some size to it, and then I'll make this 9. These exact dimensions don't particularly matter, but they'll work for what we want to do. I'll make it a little taller also. Let's make it 2 tall. Okay. Now what I want to do is the arrow keys can help you move left and right, and the increment you move by is set down here. Right now I'm moving by 1/8 of inches. Let's make it 1/4 inches. We may have to change that. But what I want to do is make these overlap. So see, they're overlapping, and the crosshatch here is saying that that's going to be cut out of whatever it overlaps. So right now it only overlaps this block. So if I select both of those, now the blue borders around everything, and go up here, you can kind of see this group, or you can hit Control and G, group, and it groups them together. And since the quarter or half circle was a negative volume, it actually subtracted it out. Now I'm going to turn this thing, select it, and turn it into a negative volume, call it a hole. And now I have a tool that will chop off rounded corners. So I can, to move up, so left and right you can use the arrow keys, in and out you can use the arrow keys, but to move up we're going to drag this little cone at the top of it. We'll move it over here, kind of get lined up, and oops, moving out. Move it up to where it's going to chop off that corner. So if we select well, before I do this, I'm going to duplicate this one because I want to chop off the back corner too. So to duplicate or make a copy, there's commands over here. You can copy and paste, but I'm just going to select it, Control D for duplicate, and it just placed it right on top of it. I'm going to use the arrow keys to slide the new one over, and I'm going to use this control handle at the back to rotate it because it needs to rotate to 90 degrees. and then I'll slide it over here, get it lined up. Oh look, see it's snapping to two different positions I don't like, so I need to make my grid snap to smaller increments. There we go. Although it's not quite chopping the back off the way I want. So let's drop down to 1/16 and see if we can. There we go. All right, so I get a little preview of what's going to get chopped off. Control A will select everything, or you can just drag a window over everything. Group these. Now I've got, you know, it kind of indented a little more than I like there. So let's Control Z, so or undo. This button is undo. And let's see if we can get those lined up a little bit nicer so that they don't, we have to make this a little bit smaller, maybe down to even 30 seconds so that we, maybe it won't work exactly the way we want, but it'll be closer than what we were at. All right, Control A to select everything, group it together, and see what we get. Those look like good rounded corners. All right, so we have the rough shape. Let's see if we can turn this, we can turn it into multicolor now. So now it can have different colors on it. Now this toolbox, we're going to cut drawers in the front of it. They'll be fake if we actually were to make this thing. Actually, the bottom one, maybe it could be a real drawer. You could pull the crumbs out. So we're going to go ahead and start with one of these negative boxes. And we're going to make 1 by, we need this to be, our whole toolbox, we set it at 8 inches. So let's make this 7 inches. And then let's line it up. Now, if you want to actually align things, if you select 2 of them, 2 or more items, this button is align, or L, and you get all these controls. You want to align them this way, then it will center them on that. Or if you wanted to center them along this direction, which I don't want to do right now. So that alignment tool helps you not have to worry so much with your grid spacing and everything. So now these are actually centered on one another. I want to raise this guy up 1/2 inch, and then we'll go, whoop, not that far. Let's cut in. I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, pop up another one here. We're going to have 3 drawers, Control D. Now that I established a pattern, it recognized that, hey, he probably wants to keep going with that pattern, and it automatically put the other one where I wanted it. Control A to select all of these and group them together. Now I've got these little indentions. Now I want to color those. The toolbox I'm thinking of is red, and it has black fronts on the drawers, so I'm going to put some fronts in here. Doesn't matter how long they are there, but it does matter that they're 7 inches because that's how big the hole is. I'm going to turn them black. I'm going to align them with the toolbox body. Then I'm going to raise, unselect. To unselect, you can just click off out in the white space somewhere. I'm going to raise it up to the right height, and then I'm going to drive it into there. So right now I'm on 1/2 inch spacing. Let's drop that down to 1/4 inch spacing so that they stick through. That looks good. Control D to duplicate, and let's go back to 1/2 inch spacing. Go up to that one, Control D, it'll pop the other one in, and now we've got drawer faces. We can, since we turned this into a multicolor model, then we can Control A, join everything, and it will retain those black faces there. If it wasn't multicolor, it would just make everything one solid color. But I want it to look, you know, separate. This tool chest also has these little silver handles across the front, so we'll do the same type of thing, except we'll make them this silvery color. It doesn't matter how long they are, but they need to be the 7 inches. Well, I guess it doesn't matter how deep they are. 7 inches long, though. We're going to align those. We'll hit the select everything, hit the L key, and click our center align here. These do need to be shorter though, because it's only going to be the little top part here. So let's make those 1/4 inch so they're flatter. We're going to need to raise those up, put them in. They need to raise up again. Oh, look, they're skipping too far, so let's drop our grid spacing down there. That looks great. Actually, let's make those stick out a little less than that. So let's go down to 1/8 inch. There, I like that. All right, so that looks like a drawer pull. Let's copy that one, Control D, raise it up to here, Control D, get the next one in, and now we have some things that look like little drawers. Control A to select everything, or draw a window around everything, and group it. It's multicolor, so it retains the color information there. All we need now is a place to put the toast. So that'll be a hollow box. I don't know the exact size of toast, but let's say it's a 1/2 inch by 5 inches. And then we'll just drag up some height here. Let's center it. So let's select everything, align them center. Unselect. We're going to have to raise our toast slot up some, and then we're going to bring it in here. It's going to show us roughly where it's going to land. Duplicate, so that's Control D, duplicate. Put our other copy somewhere over there, like that. Control A to select everything, group it, and I think we've got toaster that looks like a toolbox. We could add more little details to it, but this would work really nice for getting the next step going. The next step that we'll do in the next lesson will be how do we make this look a little more real? You know, can we render it? Can we put it in a kitchen and see what it looks like? So we'll work on that next time. So what you need to do for your assignment, for craft assignment number 2, is go to Tinkercad, create you an account if you don't already have one, and create some object. Not a simple cube, but you know, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but add some pieces together, try out the multicolor, figure out how the subtraction tools work. There are a lot of other tools that you can use. We only use 3 tools, right? The negative box, the solid box, and the rounded roof, what they call it. You can add text features. We could add some labels, buttons, the little slider to drop the toast down. We could add a lot of more detail to this one if we wanted to. But for now, I think that gives us the major tools for Tinkercad, and it lets us build something in 3 dimensions where we had really limited, if any, CAD skills before. You could go in and start to see how this one works. It's a lot easier to get into than something like SolidWorks or Fusion 360 that have different workflows. If you already know how to use one of those, then that's okay. You can use one of those to build your model. But try out Tinkercad and see how it works for you. All right, until next time.